I was accused of a murder I didn't commit. The knife had my fingerprints.
They said I was calm because I didn't know the worst part yet.
Pine Hollow, a town where quiet streets hide deadly secrets. One woman, one shadow, a series of murders no one saw coming. Fear is everywhere, and danger lurks behind every corner. Who can you trust when the killer is hiding in plain sight? Step into the shadows, if you dare. I never thought a Tuesday evening could feel like the calm before a storm. Pine Hollow was the kind of town where doors weren't just locked out of caution, they were locked because nothing ever happened. People waved to strangers, and the biggest news was usually the opening of a new diner or a lost dog wandering near Main Street. I was walking home from my shift at the town library, my bag swinging against my hip when I noticed something odd. The lights in the old Whitman house were on. That house had been empty for years, ever since old man Whitman died and the property passed through some distant relatives no one had ever met. It looked wrong. The yellow glow from the windows threw long, jagged shadows across the front lawn. Curiosity tugged me closer. I wasn't supposed to, I knew that, but I couldn't stop myself. From my angle, I saw a figure moving inside. At first, I thought it was a burglar, but then I froze. The person wasn't hiding. They were arranging something on the floor, something dark. A sudden creak behind me made me spin around. Nobody, just the empty street, the trees swaying like nervous spectators. My heartbeat picked up. I told myself to turn back, but my feet were rooted to the cracked sidewalk. Then I saw it, a flash of red. It wasn't just red, it was too vivid to be anything ordinary. My stomach churned as I realized it was lying in a shape I couldn't yet comprehend. Blood. I stumbled back, my mind racing. Who would do this in Pine Hollow? This town didn't even have a police station that saw real action. The idea of a murder happening here was absurd. And yet, there it was, staring at me from behind the dusty window. By the time I reached my apartment, my hands were trembling. I didn't call the police immediately. Something in me froze. Fear, yes, but also disbelief. I kept thinking maybe it wasn't real. Maybe my eyes had tricked me. I barely slept that night. The image of that red stain haunted every corner of my mind. And then the phone rang. It was Detective Harris, the closest thing Pine Hollow had to a professional investigator. His voice was calm, but there was an edge to it that made my blood run cold. "Did you see anything unusual at the Whitman house?" he asked. I wanted to say no. I wanted to pretend I hadn't seen a thing, but I couldn't lie. Not about this. I think so, I stammered. There was someone, I don't know, arranging something. And there was, my voice faltered, blood. There was silence on the line. Then he said, "Stay exactly where you are. Don't touch anything. I'm coming." I hung up, my body frozen in panic. I didn't know it then, but that single night would change everything. By morning, Pine Hollow wouldn't feel like home anymore. The next day, when Detective Harris arrived, he was grim. His eyes scanned me like he could read the fear written all over my face. "Sit down," he said. "We need to talk about what you saw. And I need to warn you, this isn't going to stay quiet, not in a town like this." I nodded, my throat dry. The realization hit me slowly. I wasn't just a witness. Somehow, I was now part of the story, part of something far darker than the sleepy streets I had always called home. And that's when I noticed it. A shadow at the edge of the room. Not moving, not fully visible, but unmistakably there. Someone had been watching me, and I didn't know how long. That was the moment I understood. In Pine Hollow, even the quietest streets could hide a scream. The next morning, Pine Hollow felt wrong. Even the sun seemed reluctant to rise, hiding behind thick clouds like it knew something the town didn't yet know. I had tried to convince myself that seeing blood through a window was enough to make anyone paranoid, but deep down, I knew the unease was real. Detective Harris had left me with instructions: do not leave your apartment unless absolutely necessary, and if you see anything, report it immediately. Easy to say, hard to do when every shadow outside seemed alive. By noon, my nerves were frayed, and I couldn't resist looking out the window again. That's when I saw her, a woman, standing at the corner near the Whitman house, watching me. Her hair was dark, her posture stiff, almost unnatural. When our eyes met, she didn't flinch. Instead, she gave a slow, deliberate nod, like she knew something I didn't, and then vanished into the misty morning. I slammed the curtains shut. My phone buzzed immediately. Harris. I saw her, I said, my voice shaking. The woman at the corner. She knows something. Do not follow her, Harris warned, his voice tight. Whatever she's involved in, you don't want to be caught up. We'll handle it. I spent the rest of the day replaying everything in my head. The Whitman house, the shadow in my apartment, and now this mysterious woman. It was too much for a town that had always promised safety and monotony. By late afternoon, curiosity got the better of me. I grabbed my coat and walked toward the Whitman house. I told myself it was to gather information, but really, I was drawn to it like a moth to a flame. The front door was ajar. My stomach churned. Inside, the air smelled of decay and something metallic I couldn't identify. The boards creaked under my feet, echoing through the empty house. And then I saw it, a series of photographs pinned to the living room wall. Faces, all different, all familiar. Some from the town, the baker, the school janitor, even little Tommy from my street. And scrawled across the bottom of each photo in messy handwriting were dates that hadn't happened yet. I stumbled back. This wasn't random. Someone was planning something, and I had just stepped into the middle of it. Then a sound behind me. Slow, deliberate footsteps. My breath caught. I spun around, but nobody was there, just the shadows dancing across the walls. A whisper followed me as I backed up toward the door. You shouldn't be here. I ran, down the street, past the silent houses, my heart hammering against my ribs. By the time I reached my apartment, I was shaking so violently I could barely dial Harris. He arrived within minutes, his expression unreadable. You went inside? He asked, almost accusing. I had to, I said. There were photos, dates. Something's coming. I know someone is planning more than just one murder. Harris didn't respond immediately. He just looked at me as though weighing whether I was brave or foolish. Finally, he said, "Stay here, lock the door, I'll check it out. And be careful, whoever's behind this, they're watching more than just the Whitman house." I realized then that I wasn't safe in my own apartment, not really. The shadows in Pine Hollow weren't just empty corners, they were waiting, patient and hungry for secrets. That night, I couldn't sleep. Every creak, every whisper of wind sounded like footsteps following me through the darkness. And in my mind, the woman from the morning appeared again, her eyes cold, almost accusing. By the time I drifted into a fitful sleep, I knew one terrifying truth. In Pine Hollow, even the quietest streets hid the loudest screams, and I was standing right in the center of them. I couldn't ignore the feeling any longer. Someone was controlling everything, pulling strings from the shadows. Pine Hollow had always felt safe, predictable, but now it was a chessboard, and I was trapped in the middle. Detective Harris had barricaded the Whitman house after my frantic call, but it didn't stop the fear gnawing at me. Every knock at my door, every sudden movement outside made my heart leap. And then that woman appeared again. I saw her across the street, half hidden behind a tree. This time, she didn't just nod, she stepped forward, slow, deliberate, like a specter made of mist and intent. My stomach twisted. She wasn't trying to scare me anymore. She was leading me somewhere. Against my better judgment, I followed. She moved toward the edge of town, past the old mill and the abandoned railway yard. The place smelled of rust, decay, and cold stone. The silence was oppressive. I could hear my own heartbeat and nothing else. Then she stopped. The woman turned, her face catching the dim light. My breath caught. It was not a stranger. I knew her. The librarian's assistant, Margot. Always quiet, always polite, blending into the background. But now her eyes were sharp, calculating. "You shouldn't have come," she said. Her voice was soft but cutting, precise. "But I suppose it's too late for warnings." Everything clicked into place. The dates on the photographs, the planning, the surveillance, it had all been her. Margot had been part of the town, invisible and underestimated, the perfect predator in plain sight. "Why?" I whispered, my voice trembling. "Why the murders? Why the fear?" Her smile was faint but chilling. "Control, power. People underestimate you in Pine Hollow. I wanted them to notice me, to respect me, and fear is the most efficient way to do that." My hands shook. "You're insane," she repeated, tilting her head. "No, calculated, methodical. You, detective, and the town, all pawns in my game." And now, her hand moved toward